Thank you, everybody, for joining our monthly webinar. This one entitled, Can You Predict Suppliers' Late Deliveries? And of course, yes, you can, as we'll show later today. So we'll move quickly into the technical portion of the webinar, which is, I'm sure, what you'd like to see. But to put a frame on that, just a few sentences. IDAS, our International Delivery Assurance Services. We have been in business since the 90s, where we began supply chain optimization services in the aerospace industry. Able to help companies overcome the most problematic symptoms in the supply chain. I'll give you a few examples where we've been able to help. So first, the notion that ERP is the solution to address procurement pain areas. But in fact, ERP was designed to integrate business activities across the organization. And it typically doesn't address very specific needs of procurement, such as incorrect lead time input and tracking, where supplier and specific production and actual demand, with the result being a reactive response to late supplier shipments instead of what could be a proactive supplier process. We'll focus heavily on that today in the next few moments, where Gally takes over our technical representation and presentation of what we do. Then there's the need for collaboration, where typically there can be an inadvertent gaps in communication between buyers and suppliers. We see this where buyers are communicating by email and by phone, for example, and without a prioritization process, leaving them to be overwhelmed and chasing activities rather than having a coordinated or collaborative process with suppliers. This is where we've helped in the need for visibility for both the buyer and the supplier. Some call that a 360-degree view. A further example of this is where unexpected costs can be realized, where uncoordinated actions are missed, such as an oversight in rescheduling a delivery, resulting in over intake of material, where a closed loop system would have caught this error before it happened. And finally, now we have tools available to us where, again, most supply chain processes are reactive. We can move the process to be proactive by getting ahead of the supply chain issues before they happen with our on-demand driven prediction algorithm, and with the use of artificial intelligence and machine learning, we can stop chasing parts, pass through suppliers, and learn of any problems before the production line is down. And that's our main focus today in this month's webinar. So with that, and in a moment, I'm going to pass the mic and the presentation over to Gally to take us through the technical visual explanation of what we just talked about. Before I do that, just a couple of housekeeping points. I'm clicking over here. I think if you look on the left-hand side of the meeting that you've entered, you should see a button that says Q&A. You should also see a button that says polls. And if you click on Q&A, you'll be able to, I think there's a broadcast message at the bottom where you can enter a question as we go through this. And there's some interesting polls, I think, that might, we've kind of tooled it to the attendees today, so that might be fun and interesting as well. So the presentation will be, I believe, about 15-20 minutes. At the end of that, we'll circle back with Q&A, which we expect to have. So with that, I'd like to pass this over to Gally Katzen to take us through the technical and visual presentation of our webinar today.
Okay, thank you very much, Peter. Thank you for everyone for joining us this morning in the States, evening in Europe. My name is Gally Katz. I'm the CTO of the company with 25 years of experience in the supply chain software business. And let's start talking about the subject of this webinar. Can you really predict supplier late deliveries? But before we start, let's do some fast reality check, as we call it. At the end of the day, most organizations, we know, most LTA supplier contracts that we've seen in the last 20 plus years, and we've seen quite a lot, everyone is striving and aiming for a goal of around at least 95% on-time delivery from their suppliers. But if you look at the data, at statistics, at research data, really, there are really few organizations that can meet that standard and goals. And most of the manufacturing organization these days with a supply chain will be at around 80 to 85 percentage average on-time delivery. Okay, the bottom performers, as you can see on the graph on the right-hand side, can be at around 71% OTD. Somewhere in the average is 81, and the top performance will reach 90. So really, going to the goal of 95 minimum OTD is something that most organizations do not achieve, and will see much lower numbers of real-time OTD. And what is real cost of supplier-led deliveries and basically poor performance and poor on-time delivery? First of all, impacts on our production lines, material shortages, slow down on your processes and your assembly lines, even shutdowns in many cases. Second of all, your lead time to your customers. Everything is delayed. The end product will not be manufacturing per the manufacturing schedule. Your customer complaints, penalties, and maybe the most annoying and the most problematic, decrease of customer satisfaction. Okay, which has a very bad influence on the bottom line of the business, and of course costs. What are the costs that are associated with late supplier deliveries, from the extra shipping cost of expediting, your unoptimized inventory, and so on and so on. So the costs and the effects of supplier-led deliveries are critical to the business. And what we've seen in the last 30 years with most supply chains that we work with, that the processes are mainly reactive. We are always chasing our parts with our suppliers, our past dues, our line stoppages, and our, as we said before, suppliers. And what we've really trying to do is become proactive. Okay, and what does it mean to become proactive? One of the things that we understood, because we are always chasing the suppliers, the line stoppages, the past dues, and our parts, is how can we take data that is accumulated in many different systems these days, but how can we take that data and try to build a predictive system that will help us turn from a reactive organization to a proactive organization? Okay, so we've come with a methodology and an algorithm that basically can predict if suppliers are going to be late or not with your manufactured parts. And how do we do that? Okay, so now I'll take you with a couple of slides that will really talk about our algorithm and our methodology on predicting supplier-led delivery. So first of all, we have 4 evaluation criteria. First one is we take from ERP system, any ERP system, the 12-month shipping data. Okay, so in most cases, it's being used in order to get the on-time delivery KPIs, but we take it to another level. We do not only look at the amount of quantity late, but we also look on the average days late, and the weekly parts late, and on the weekly lots late. So that's the first data that we take into our algorithm to try to predict if parts are going to be late or not. The second one is the supplier manufacturing data. Okay, we can, via certain supplier portals that we use, we can get the supplier manufacturing data, such as the current stock level that they have for certain parts and the current working production that they have for certain parts. First of all, we take the current supplier PO confirmation from the supplier portal. Quite simple, we'll see it in a second. A supplier has 10 PO lines, so he says 5 PO lines are going to be on time. Yes, 2 out of them are not going to be on time. This is the due date. This is our expected shipping date. And 3, I cannot confirm at this stage. I'm going to show this example in a second. And 4th is something quite unique to our algorithm and machine learning tools that we use. Basically, we take the 12-month supplier portal updating trends. What does that mean? think about an example. We have a supplier that currently has, on week 1, has 20 open PO lines that are due in the next 30 weeks. Comes the first week, and the supplier receives the new POs, and he says to all of them, yes, I'm confirming. It doesn't matter in which technology he does it. He does it via mail, via telephone, via fax, or via a supplier portal. But he says everything is confirmed. Fast forward, F way to the lead time, week number 6, the supplier still goes on and say, I'm confirming everything will be on time. But a week before the due delivery date, suddenly says, no, sorry, I'm going to miss 3 deliveries. So what does that really mean on the reliability and the confidence and the service level of such a supplier? Okay, so when we take those 4 criterias, evaluation criterias, we come up with a scoring method for the supplier and for the supplier parts. First of all, we call it red parts, okay? If the score of the supplier is under 65, it means that the supplier current open parts in the next 90 days that are due in the next 90 days are already late or are going to be late. Okay, so that's red. Second of all, any part that comes with a score between 68 to 85, those parts in the next 90 days have a chance to be late and they need some kind of attention. If red parts need immediate attention, because we already know we have a warning sign that those parts are problematic, the yellow ones are somewhere in between. And green parts, any part that has a score higher than 85, most chances that they will be on time in the next 90 days. So we have a scoring, we group the parts by scores. And not only that, we can also adjust such an algorithm, such a predictive algorithm to match different kind of suppliers. So if, for example, we have suppliers that are critical to our assembly lines, okay, so we can say that those kind of suppliers, those are suppliers that are inputting their current manufacturing information, such as stock levels and work in production. Another kind of suppliers will only report on stock levels. And the third kind of suppliers, maybe less critical suppliers, they will not input any manufacturing information. They will only input PO confirmations. Okay, so basically what we've built here is a methodology and an algorithm that basically helps customers look at their suppliers and catch problems in advance and not after they shut the manufacturing lines down with all the costs and penalties associated with such a critical issue. We call it PPA, Parts Prediction Algorithm. Okay, which basically, as I said before, it gives you a prediction system, an indicator for your parts at your suppliers, and giving you the tools to communicate and take the right decision to achieve, as we said at the beginning, not 70 or not 80% on-time deliveries, but at least 90 or 95% on-time delivery. Okay, and how does this really work? What is the methodology that we use? The methodology is divided into 3 main steps: receive and collect data. As I said, some of the data that we receive are already in the ERP system, like receiving information, open POs, and so on and so on. But basically, we take this information and we communicate it with the suppliers via a very user-friendly web-based supplier portal, which is very easy to use. Suppliers can look and see their part numbers. They can enter the current inventory and WIP for specific part numbers, and for a PO, for each part number, they will see the PO lines. They will see the due date, the need date. In some cases, they can also see the current customer stock level. So they really understand what is the real demand for such parts, and they will say, Are they confirming? If they are saying they are not confirming, they will need to enter the expected date, a quantity, which can be splitted if they enter a smaller quantity than the requested PO quantity, notes, and again, they can say shipped, when is the expected arrival date, quantity, airway bill number. They can also generate a barcode and enter and upload the shipment documentation, and they can also say, I cannot confirm because this is something awaiting customer, and this will flag in the customer ERP system. It will raise a flag that something is problematic with this PO and the supplier must be contacted immediately. So that's the section of receive and collect data. Second one is process and analyze data. So basically, as we said, we pointed out, we use our PPA, the parts prediction algorithm, to evaluate and measure the supplier's data over time. And this is like a sample of a dashboard that on the one end shows the supplier collaboration score. On the other end, it will show the supplier predictive score, meaning this, in this example, this supplier has a chance of 95.75% out of his total parts to be on time in the future 90 days. So basically, it means that this supplier is not a problematic supplier. And you can see also that the weekly average PO alignment, because this tool will help the supplier and the customer align the PO to the real requirements. So in this example, you can see that this supplier does not have any red parts. Red parts are parts that are already causing line stoppages because there is demand with no stock. Blue parts, on the contrary, very something that is something that is urgent in these days with COVID-19 because of the fluctuation in demand. Blue parts that we currently have an overstock and we really do not need them. Yellow parts that they are below the optimal stock, and green parts that are inside the optimal stock. So in such a way, everything is very clear. But remember, even if we have a supplier that maybe has 20 PO, 20 part numbers, and 19 out of them are going to be on time, it's enough one part, even with the smallest value, let's say a small nut that is needed in a aircraft assembly line, and we know that this part is not going to be on time, okay, this is enough to cause a line stoppage. So we not only look on the supplier level, but we also drill down to the part number level, and we give an indication where are the problematic parts and which parts really need immediate attention. And you can see in this example, this part has 3 open lines with a total quantity of 265 parts, but the supplier does not have anything in stock and his WIP level is only 255, okay? So basically means this part is going to be late in the near future, and you need to focus on that part and act immediately. And we use some very advanced visualization tools to prioritize to the supply chain managers, procurement directors, buyers, and administrators, where are the critical problems. So we use heat maps in many ways. In this example, you can see wide variety of suppliers, and you can see in one visual view which are the problematic suppliers, which are the suppliers that have the most late lines, current late lines, late parts, and red parts. You can just click on it and go to the supplier dashboard and exactly understand where are your problems at. Furthermore, we use line of balance graph, okay, are generated automatically per the supplier inputs in the portal, and you can see exactly where your demand is going to be in line with the supplier confirmations. To sum this up, we call the predictive system and the benefit it brings, we call it our 5 E's. First of all, as the theme of this webinar, first of all, it will help you ensure suppliers on-time delivery. Second of all, it will help you enhance supplier traceability and visibility. Third of all, it will help you be effective supplier risk management because you really know in advance where are your problems, effortless supplier communication, and last of all, it will eliminate excessive cost and reduce overhead. For example, when you align most of your POs to your demand and to the supplier confirmation, your stock levels will be in the levels that you are really looking for. And at the end of the day, when we talk about supplier collaboration, we know these days that supplier collaboration is equal to growth, to business growth. And we have a McKinsey and Company research just recently from July 2020 says that it knows that supplier collaboration really does move the needle for companies that do it well. Okay, companies that regularly collaborate with suppliers demonstrated higher growth, lower operation costs, and greater profitability than their industry peers. So that's our main message. Use advanced predictive tools, be visible and traceable with the suppliers, and vice versa. This will equal to collaboration, which at the end of the day equals to growth and equals to better margins and profits to the organization. Before we sum this up, we work with some of the biggest names in the industry, in the aerospace industry, from all over the globe, from the States, from the UK, from Europe, from Israel. We work with suppliers in our supplier portals from 5 continents, any time zone, with many, many languages. Thank you, everyone, for the time. Peter, it's back to you. Can you mute me, please?
Yes, I'll first unmute myself. And if you can't hear me, raise your hand again. We did have a couple of questions come in, so I'm sure I'm going to have to unmute you as well. Hang on, let me go over there. Okay, I see 3 so far. To what ERP system can you connect? What is needed for implementation? How much time does it take? I'm Leo, definitely, or Gally, rather, I'm going to have to pass that over to you. Shall I read it to you again?
Yes.
Yeah, to what ERP system can you connect? And what is needed for implementation? How much time does it take?
Okay, basically we can connect to any ERP system that can speak to the outside world in a digitized way. That's any ERP. We work with Oracle, with SAP, with M3, MFG Pro, many of the systems that are out there. And a typical implementation process will take around 4 weeks from start till we are ready to roll out with the suppliers and with the algorithm that really matches the specification for each customer.
So the 4 weeks is to gather the historic data that you meant, like 12-month history, that sort of thing?
Yes, but it will also be ready to roll out to the suppliers, the supplier portal and everything. So
Okay.
we can be ready in 4 weeks to roll out.
Okay.
A very quick implementation process.
Yeah, okay, here's one from, these are actually 3 different attendees. Here's one. How do you deal with the recent pandemic with suppliers?
I'll give I think a very nice example when the pandemic started in the States at around March. Okay, one of our suppliers and one of our customers, as many others, the first goal was to reduce stocks, not only to be sure that there is enough capital free, but also because the spaces in the warehouse were almost gone because there was so much inventory on hand. One of the things that we do to further the collaboration, we started the process of early supplier shipments through the portal. Okay, which really for one of those customers reduced the inventory levels at around $1 million.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for that. Yeah, one more just came in. Can we add this? Is it standalone? Can we add the predictive element to our existing portal?
Yes. The algorithm it can be a standalone implementation, and if you already have supplier collaboration tools, we can take the information from those tools into our algorithm and make it work with your own collaboration tools.
And is that with the same setup time that you mentioned earlier?
I would say so. Yes, around 3 to 4 weeks. Yes.
Okay. I think this is the last one, unless one comes in later. It's about the heat map. Are the lines by the supplier or critical parts? So am I clicking on the line to see the critical part, or am I clicking on to see the supplier who has the late parts?
Okay. Basically, the heat map in this example is we don't show here the supplier, but each line is for a supplier. So in this example, this is on a supplier level, and suppliers that have 3 bars of red, meaning those are suppliers that currently have the biggest amount of late lines, late parts, and the biggest amount of predictive red parts, meaning they're going to be late not only now, but also in the future. And we can scroll down from here to the supplier level, and from the supplier level to see a heat map for all of these parts. So this can really take you, the heat maps can really take you level after level after level.
Okay. So rather than focusing on 225 suppliers all the time, you can focus on the ones that are problematic.
Exactly. That's the main intention of this visualization.
Okay. Well, we've almost reached the 30 minutes. If there's any last minute questions, do pop them in. And if they are there, I will circle back to them. But if they're not, we'll go to closing here and appreciate again, our monthly webinars focus on a specific area in where there are supply chain difficulty and pain, and we try to enlighten in these 30-minute meetings. We have the deck of slides, we have recording, we have other information videos that we can send along to you. We'll follow up to see if there's a need for any of those. And thank you very much for attending this month's webinar. We really appreciate that. And if there's any questions, do ping us.